important than keeping them off some days.
Lots of other people around the world, and Jay Lestage will tell you that defense wins championships. It didn't necessarily last year, although I think the defense of the Colts was kind of what really put them in position to win that game.
That, yeah.
The Ravens, by the way, are one of those teams that has won purely because they had a good defense. Their defense isn't that good, but now they have a little bit more offense too. I think they're more balanced. But
I still think the Ravens are going to be pretty good. I still think they're the second best team in the division. I think they're going to slip a little bit, but I still think they're pretty good. I think the Steelers.
Bengals were 8-8 last year, I believe, at the end of the year. I mean, and they didn't really do anything to get better. Like maybe they got a couple guys back from injury, but those same players still got arrested for things. They're still hanging out. They're still hanging around. I don't really feel like the Bengals did enough to their roster to say, let's try to get better. I don't know if what's there is good enough to get up to where they need to be. I think they could be a 10-win team, but that's not going to be enough to win that division.
I think the Bengals really underachieved last year. I think they're better than they played last year, and I think they'll have a really good year this year.
And I think they lost some close games last year that this year they won't lose that close.
I think the Bengals are ready to go this year. I think the Bengals will be one of those top teams.
We shall see. We shall see.
All right, so am I going to lead the South?
Lead us in the South.
Because in the South, of course, again, the Colts will dominate the South. The Titans may put up a good fight. The Texans and the Jaguars are like spare teams just kicking around. They're like Lego pieces. You just don't know where to fit them in. They're not going to do that well. And
don't be fooled by the fact that Indianapolis is not that far south. This is
I understand that. I don't get how the Colts got bunched in with
Don't
the
answer
South
me
teams,
how Miami didn't get into the South. It doesn't make any
I
sense
don't
to me. Most Southern team in the NFL.
Yeah. And like the Colts are in that weird spot where they're not really like East and they're not really South and they're not like.
But regardless, we don't get to change that.
Yeah.
So.
But I still think the Colts are going to be the team to beat in the South. Anybody else?
Big shocker, you.
Well,
you love the Colts.
The Colts are obviously going to win the South. They're the number one team in the AFC. They're going to win the South. I disagree, though, with the middle of his division. I think the Jaguars, I mean, I know they got rid of Leftwich. They're going to go with David Garrett. I still think the Jaguars will be a pretty good team. They always end up with a pretty good year. They lost a couple games at the end of the season last year. But I still think they're better than the Texans and the Titans. I think the Titans are one of the worst teams in the league. And that's what I have to say about the Titans.
You just hate me.
Wow, the Titans are one of the worst teams in the league.
I think the Titans
I'm glad
are
we
pretty
have
awful.
this on video and documented. I agree with Josh. I think the Colts obviously are the class of the South. There's no point even going into that further. I'm sure you've heard of the names of players on that team. They're still good, by the way. The Titans are better than the Jaguars. I think them moving to David Garrard is a good move for the Jaguars, but I don't know if it's going to happen this year for them. The Titans won, I believe, 6 of their last 7 games or some good run like that at the end of last year. They made a push for the playoffs last year. I think this year they're definitely good enough to get in. They've made a few good moves. I don't know if getting rid of Travis Henry was the best idea, but I think that they've got a lot of good pieces there, and they're young, and they're ready to go, and I like them over the Jaguars and Texans.
I think when you look at the Titans, I think you really, once you get past Vince Young, what do they really have? They don't really have that solid of a defense. They don't really have a lot of good receivers for him to throw the ball. I really don't think.
Yeah, I was going to say I can't name.
I don't think they really have a lot of support for Vince Young. I mean,
I can't name a Titan receiver.
Do it all by himself.
Okay, understandable, like the Titans, but I think the biggest thing that hurts the Titans this year is that guy named Pac-Man. Like, they don't have a return guy. They don't have a shutdown corner now. I think that's going to hurt them on the defensive side of the ball, and I think they're going to let up a lot more points this year than they did last year.
I just don't think the Titans are going to be that good. I think they're, like I said, going to be one of the worst teams in the league.
He says worst. I'm excited now for the season more than anything because of that. Because the Titans they're going to win at least 6 or 7 games.
I disagree.
So, what do you think they're going to win 2-3 games?
I think the Titans will be one of those teams that
wins 2 or 3 games,
almost like the Raiders last year. That they'll have like that.
What if
that 2 to 4 win season?
Feel free to call.
I really think the Titans are going to be one of those awful teams.
What if he
true.
snaps an ankle?
That could happen too. If that happens to the Titans,
that
if
makes
the Madden
sense.
jinx happens to the Titans and Vince Young, the Titans are going to struggle.
Okay.
They're going to struggle.
But
to
that's
win
true.
a
That's
game.
true of any of these teams. You take Peyton Manning out.
Yeah,
I don't like Jim Sorgi to take the Colts to the Super Bowl. Whatever. It doesn't matter.
I disagree. I think Jim Sorgi is better than anybody in the world realizes.
Of course you do. Because
Anyway,
you like the Colts.
Anyway. I guess I'm kicking off the West.
Lead us to the West.
All right.
Go West, young man.
I still think the class of the West is the San Diego Chargers. I still think they're one of the top teams. LaDainian Tomlinson's probably going to have another really good year. Probably not as good as last year because he set records last year. But he should still have a pretty good year. I think the Broncos are a little better than they were last year, so I think they'll be the number 2 team in that division. They might compete with the Chargers. It might be pretty close, but I think the Chargers are just a little bit better. And then I think the Chiefs are pretty bad, but I think having Damon Heward as the quarterback and then maybe Brody Croyle later on in the season, they still have Larry Johnson. I still think they're a pretty good team, and the Raiders are just as bad as they were last year. They're going to be another pretty awful team too.
All right, I say the Chargers are also going to be the team to beat in the West. Pretty much the power of LaDainian Tomlinson, and unlike Kyle, I think he's going to put up huge numbers again this year. He's never rushed for less than 1,300 yards in a season and 5 touchdowns. This year, I think it happens again. He's the guy to beat. But I think the team that's going to challenge him out there is going to be the Broncos. The Broncos defense is going to play some shutdown defense. I think they'll have a season split, and really that's going to be deciding whether who gets the first round bye and who doesn't in the West.
I'm going to have to say that the class of the West is the Broncos, but the Chargers will win the West because
Okay.
you called the Chargers the class, and I think you're a little off on that one because they play in San Diego. Denver's a little classier.
You stay classy, San Diego.
But the Chargers should win the West. I think they still have enough talent. I'm not sold on Norv Turner as a coach or really a man. I don't know him, but he could be all right. But that team has too much talent to not win that division, and the Broncos have got to be, one of the best 2 teams in a division. I would have to say that they should give the Chargers a run for their money if Jay Cutler can, just run the offense the way it should be run. The Chiefs and Raiders are just both awful in my book. I think the Chiefs got worse by losing, Trent Green, who I bagged on earlier, but worked kind of with their team. But anyway, a slice that the Chiefs weren't going to get any higher than 3rd on this list. Who knows? The Raiders might give them a run for 3rd, like it matters.
All right, so in the AFC, I'll just do it in order. I have the Colts 1, the Chargers 2, the Bengals 3, the Patriots 4, the Ravens 5, and the Broncos 6 in my playoffs in the AFC.
Okay. Well, we'll get to the playoffs later, but those are your playoffs.
I don't have them individually ranked as to where they're going to go, but in the AFC, I do have the Bengals, the Broncos, the Colts, the Ravens, the Patriots, and the Chargers.
And I have all the division winners that we talked about, and my wild cards are the Titans and the Broncos.
Fair enough.
Yep, that's right. One of the worst teams in the league is going to make the wild card.
One of the worst teams in the league might get the wild
But they'll be the
card.
number 6 ranked